He fought and bled for the princess, now the queen grabs him. It ended with smoke drifting through broken cities, with silent skies where stars used to shine, and with names carved into metal walls instead of spoken aloud. On the outer edge of the Valyrian system, where three suns once lit proud worlds, the last human soldier stood alone among the ruins. His name was Iren Vale. He leaned against a shattered wall, his armor cracked and blackened, his right arm wrapped in a field bandage that blinked weakly with fading light. His helmet lay on the ground beside him, split down the middle. He did not bother to pick it up. The battle was over. There was nothing left to protect his head from. Around him, alien soldiers moved quietly, gathering their wounded and honoring their dead. Tall figures with silver skin, others with 4 arms and glowing eyes, all of them alive because one human had refused to retreat. Iren watched them without pride. He had not come here to be remembered. 3 days earlier, the enemy fleet had torn through the Valyrian defense lines. The royal world of Astral, home to the princess and the last symbol of unity in the sector, was moments away from collapse. The alien high command had ordered a full withdrawal. Astral was considered lost, but humans had never been good at leaving people behind. When the distress call reached the human fleet, Iren had not waited for approval. He took his ground unit, barely 200 soldiers, and dropped straight into the burning capital city. They fought street by street, building by building, sometimes room by room. When ammunition ran out, they used broken weapons. When weapons failed, they used their hands. Humans bled red across streets that had never seen human blood before. Iren remembered the moment he saw the princess. She had been surrounded by guards, all dead or dying, in the grand hall of the Crystal Palace. Enemy soldiers were closing in, their weapons glowing with charged energy. Iren had not spoken. He simply stepped forward, raising his shield, and stood between the princess and certain death. That single act changed the war. The human counterattack spread like fire. Other species, seeing one human stand where armies had fallen, followed. The enemy advance broke. The fleet above retreated. Astral survived. The princess survived. Now, years later, Iren still stood in the ruins, watching others celebrate a victory he felt had cost too much. A medical officer approached him carefully. "You need treatment," the alien said, voice soft through a translator node. "Your injuries are severe." Iren shook his head. "Others first," he replied simply. The officer hesitated, then bowed and moved away. That was how humans were remembered in this war, not by statues, by quiet refusals. The return no one noticed when Iren finally returned to human space. There was no parade waiting for him. The war had ended months ago. The news cycles had moved on. New treaties were signed, new borders drawn, and new leaders celebrated peace. Humanity's role was mentioned in footnotes and closing statements. Human units provided support. Human forces assisted during final engagements. No one spoke about the stand at the Crystal Palace. Iren docked at Outpost Helios 9, a small station on the edge of human territory. He walked off the transport alone, carrying his armor in a case marked with burn scars and dents that told stories no one asked to hear. A clerk glanced at him. "Name?" "Vale, Iren." The clerk typed, frowned, then nodded. "Discharged, medical pension approved, no further service required." That was it, no questions, no thanks. Iren accepted the data pad and walked away. He did not complain. Humans were used to this. They fought because it was needed, not because it was noticed. He settled on a quiet frontier world called Greyhaven, a mining planet with cold winds and long nights. He worked repairing machines, teaching young workers how to survive equipment failures and unexpected disasters. He never spoke about the war. But sometimes at night when the stars were clear, he remembered the princess's eyes as she looked at him that day, wide with fear, then something else. Something like understanding. The crown rises. On Astral, the coronation was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The Crystal Palace had been rebuilt, stronger than before. Light bent through its towers, casting colors that shifted with every movement. Delegations from 100 species filled the grand hall. The princess was gone. In her place stood Queen Althares, crowned ruler of the Valyrian Alliance. She wore ceremonial armor, not robes. Her people remembered who had defended them. Her crown was shaped like a rising star, symbol of survival after darkness. As she stepped forward, the hall fell silent. "Today," she said, her voice clear and calm, "we do not celebrate power, we celebrate endurance." She spoke of unity, of shared loss, of the price paid by many species. She honored admirals, commanders, and fleets. But when the ceremony ended and the crowds departed, the queen did not smile. She returned to her private chamber, where holographic stars filled the air. Waiting for her was an elderly advisor, his skin marked with age patterns unique to her species. "You did not speak his name," the advisor said carefully. "I did not forget it," the queen replied. She waved her hand and an image appeared, Irene Vale, standing in the Crystal Palace hall, bloodied and unmoving, shield raised against impossible odds. "The Alliance owes him everything," the advisor said. "Yes," the queen answered softly, "and that is why the galaxy fears him." The advisor looked confused. "Fears a single human?" "Fears what humans represent," she corrected. "They are small in number, limited in resources. But they do not break where others do." She closed her eyes. "Ancient law binds the one who saves the royal bloodline to the crown," she continued. "It is meant to ensure loyalty." The advisor stiffened. "You would invoke that law?" "I must," the queen said. "Because something worse than the last war is coming." She opened her eyes, sharp and resolute. "And only a human will stand where no one else can." The message on Greyhaven, Irene was repairing a power relay when the sky lit up. A sleek royal vessel descended through the clouds, its design unmistakable. Workers stopped, staring in silence. Royal ships did not come to mining worlds. Irene wiped grease from his hands and felt a familiar weight settle in his chest. He knew before the ship landed. Two royal guards approached him, their armor polished, their movements precise. "Irene Vale," one said, "by decree of Queen Althares of Astral, you are summoned." Irene looked at them calmly. "For what purpose?" "That information is reserved for the queen." He glanced at the workers around him. Young faces, tired faces, people who relied on him. "I'm not a soldier anymore," he said. The guard bowed slightly. "The decree does not recognize retirement." Irene sighed. He looked up at the sky, then back at the guards. "I'll come," he said, "but not because of a crown." The guards said nothing. As the ship lifted off, leaving Greyhaven behind, Irene stared out at the stars. He had fought and bled for a princess. Now a queen was reaching for him. And the galaxy was about to remember why humans should never be forgotten. The royal ship moved through space without sound. Irene Vale sat alone in a small chamber near the center of the vessel. The walls were smooth and white, glowing softly with steady light. There were no windows, no decorations, just a single chair, a table, and a faint hum from the engines. He preferred it that way. Luxury made him uneasy. Silence did not. A medical drone hovered nearby, scanning his body with thin beams of blue light. His wounds from the war had healed long ago, but scars remained. The drone paused at his right shoulder, where the armor had once cracked under enemy fire. "Injury stable," the drone said in a calm voice. "No treatment required." "Good," Irene replied. The drone drifted away. Irene leaned back and closed his eyes. Space travel usually brought sleep, but not this time. Too many thoughts moved through his mind. Why now? Years had passed since the war. The queen had everything she needed: power, allies, peace. She did not need a forgotten human soldier. Unless peace was no longer real, the door slid open without warning. Two guards stood aside as a tall figure entered the chamber. Queen Althares. She wore simple armor this time, not ceremonial. Its surface reflected the light softly, shaped for movement rather than display. The crown was gone, but her presence filled the room more completely than any symbol ever could. Irene stood immediately. "My queen," he said, bowing his head out of respect, not submission. "You may sit," she replied. Her voice was calm, controlled, and sharper than steel. They sat across from each other in silence for a moment. The queen studied him carefully, as if measuring something unseen. "You look older," she said at last. "So do you," Irene replied. A small smile touched her face, then vanished. "You disappeared after the war," she said. "I went home," Irene answered, "or as close to home as I could find." The queen nodded. "The galaxy forgot you," she said. "That's normal," Irene replied. "Humans are used to it." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "That is exactly the problem, the law of chains." The queen raised her hand. A holographic symbol appeared between them, an ancient crest, old even by galactic standards. "This is the law of Bloodguard," she said. "Few remember it, fewer still understand it." Irene studied the symbol. "I've heard of it," he said. "A myth, mostly." "It is very real," the queen replied. "It states that any who save the royal bloodline in time of absolute collapse are bound to the crown." Irene's jaw tightened. "Bound how?" By command, she said simply. By duty. Silence fell between them. You're telling me, Irene said slowly, that I belong to you. The queen did not look away. I am telling you that the law allows me to claim your service, she said, but I did not summon you for ownership. Then why? Irene asked. She dismissed the hologram and stood, turning toward the wall. Another image appeared, this one a map of space. Red markers spread across distant regions beyond known borders. These systems went dark, she said. No signals, no survivors, entire civilizations erased. Irene leaned forward. By whom? We do not know, the queen replied. We call them the null tide. They do not negotiate, they do not retreat, they consume. Irene's hands clenched. And you want me to fight them? Yes, why me? She turned to face him. Because every species we sent failed, she said. They followed doctrine, predictable patterns, clean rules of engagement. And humans don't, Irene said. No, the queen agreed. Humans adapt, humans endure, humans refuse to accept impossible odds. She took a step closer. And the galaxy is terrified of that. Fear of humanity, Irene laughed softly without humor. Terrified? He said. We barely have a seat at the table. Because the table was built to keep you small, the queen replied. She gestured and new images appeared, alien councils, sealed agreements, classified directives. After the war, she continued, there were debates, quiet ones about humanity. Irene frowned. About what? About whether humans should be limited, she said. Restricted. Controlled, his eyes hardened. And you allowed this. I stopped what I could, the queen said, but fear spreads faster than reason. She met his gaze. They see humans as a weapon that cannot be sheathed. Irene stood. I didn't come here to be used, he said. The queen did not move. Neither did I, she replied. But survival often demands uncomfortable truths. She lowered her voice. The null tide is approaching alliance space. When it arrives, our fleets will break. And you think one human can stop it, Irene said. I think one human can show us how, she answered. Silence returned, heavier than before. Finally, Irene spoke. You said the law binds me, he said. Are you invoking it? The queen hesitated. Yes, she said, I am. Irene nodded slowly. Then say it clearly. Her voice echoed with formal weight. By the law of Bloodguard, I claim your service in defense of the Valyrian alliance. The words settled like chains in the air, but Irene did not bow. He looked straight at her. You can claim my actions, he said. You cannot claim my will. The queen studied him for a long moment. That, she said quietly, is exactly why I need you. The task force days later, Irene stood on the command deck of a massive coalition vessel. Around him were officers of many species. Some whispered, some stared openly. None hid their doubt well. A human commanding an alliance task force was unheard of. The queen's voice echoed through the chamber. Irene Vale will lead the vanguard unit, she declared. All personnel will obey his commands. Murmurs rippled through the room. One alien commander stepped forward. With respect, Your Majesty, he said, this human has no fleet command history. Irene turned to face him. You're right, he said calmly. I don't. The commander looked surprised. I have something else, Irene continued. I've lost battles. I've been surrounded. I've survived when plans failed. Silence followed. The queen nodded once. The vanguard launches at dawn, she said. A warning later that night, Irene stood alone in the observation bay, staring into deep space. Footsteps approached behind him. The queen stopped beside him. You could have refused, she said. I could have, Irene agreed. But then others would die, she nodded. The law binds you, she said, but I know that is not why you stay. No, Irene replied. I stay because humans don't run when the dark moves closer. The queen looked at him with something like respect. Be careful, she said. If you succeed, the galaxy will fear you even more. Irene smiled faintly. Let them, he said. Fear keeps people honest. Far beyond the stars, something ancient shifted, and for the first time it noticed humanity looking back. The vanguard unit moved like a quiet storm. Irene Vale stood at the center of the command deck, hands behind his back, eyes fixed on the main display. Stars slid past as the fleet jumped from system to system, following a path no alliance force had ever taken before. The ships were not impressive. Old human cruisers, refitted cargo vessels, a few alien warships added for support. Compared to the shining fleets of the core worlds, the vanguard looked weak. Many officers thought the same. They watched Irene closely, waiting for mistakes. He gave them none. Slow the fleet, Irene said calmly. Reduce engine output by 10%. An insect-like navigation officer tilted its head. "This region is uncharted," it said. "Standard procedure demands full readiness." "Standard procedure gets you seen," Irene replied. "We're not here to be loud." The officer hesitated, then obeyed. The fleet slowed. Moments later, strange signals appeared on the edge of the scanners. Enemy probes. If the fleet had been moving faster, they would have been detected. Silence filled the command deck. Irene did not react. "Deploy counter-drones," he said. "Passive only, no weapons." Alien officers exchanged confused looks. "No weapons?" one asked. "Information wins battles," Irene answered. "Not noise." The probes vanished from the display. For the first time, doubt shifted slightly toward curiosity. First contact. The first encounter with the null tide came without warning. The fleet entered a dead system. No stars, no planets, just drifting debris and frozen wreckage from long-dead civilizations. Then space moved. Shapes formed from darkness, twisting like shadows made solid. Ships without clear edges, weapons without visible barrels, alarms sounded. "Enemy vessels detected," an officer shouted. Irene raised one hand. "Hold fire." The command deck froze. "They are approaching," another officer warned. "We must strike first." "No," Irene said firmly. "They want us to react." The null-tide ships circled, scanning, testing. Irene watched carefully. "They move like hunters," he said, "waiting for panic." He turned to weapons control. "Redirect power from shields to engines," he ordered. Shock spread through the room. "That will leave us exposed," an alien captain protested. "For 5 seconds," Irene replied. "Trust me." The fleet surged forward suddenly, breaking formation, scattering in unpredictable paths. The null tide reacted instantly, too instantly. Their weapons fired at where the fleet had been. Empty space exploded. "Now," Irene said. Human ships released clouds of debris, scrap metal, broken hull pieces, frozen wreckage. The null tide weapons locked onto the false targets. Then the real attack came. Alien warships struck from unexpected angles. Human vessels used improvised launchers, firing modified mining charges instead of standard missiles. The null-tide ships faltered. They had never faced chaos used as a weapon. Within minutes, the enemy withdrew. The fleet was damaged, but alive. The command deck was silent. Finally, an alien officer spoke. "That maneuver, it violates every engagement rule." Irene nodded. "Yes," he said. "That's why it worked." The human way words spread quickly through the vanguard. Humans did not fight to look clean. They fought to win. Irene walked the decks after each encounter, speaking to crews directly. He listened. He adjusted plans. He allowed suggestions from anyone, regardless of rank or species. This confused the Alliance officers. Command was supposed to be distant, controlled. Human command was different. A young alien engineer approached Irene during repairs. "Why do you involve lower ranks in decisions?" the engineer asked. "Because ideas don't care about rank," Irene replied. "Survival cares about results." Morale changed. Fear faded. Trust grew. The Vanguard became something new, not a collection of species, but a single force shaped by human adaptability. The null tide noticed. Their attacks became sharper, more focused. They targeted human ships first. "That confirms it," an intelligence officer said. "They see humans as the primary threat." Irene nodded. "Good," he said. "That means we're doing our job." The trap Irene studied the enemy patterns carefully. "They learn," he said during a briefing. "But they learn slowly." He highlighted a region of space. "This is where we stop running." The officers stared at the display. "That system has no cover," one said. "No gravity wells, no terrain." "Exactly," Irene replied. "They expect us to hide." The plan was simple, dangerous. Very human, the Vanguard spread out, broadcasting weak signals pretending to be damaged. The null tide followed. When the enemy fleet entered the open system, Irene gave the order. "Shut down main power." "What?" multiple voices cried. The ships went dark, drifting, silent. The null tide paused, confused. Then space bent. Hidden human devices activated, experimental gravity disruptors built from mining equipment and stolen alien theory. The null tide ships lost cohesion. They collided. They tore each other apart. The Vanguard reactivated power and struck once, hard and precise. The enemy fleet was destroyed. The victory echoed across Alliance space. Reports flooded in. A human-led force eliminated a null-tide fleet. Human tactics defy enemy prediction. Fear spread, not among enemies. Among allies, the Queen Watch's Queen Althery stood alone in her observation chamber, watching recorded footage of the battle. The advisor from before stood beside her. "They are changing the balance," he said. "Yes," the queen replied. "They always do." "Some council members are concerned," the advisor continued. "They say humans are becoming too influential." The queen's eyes hardened. "They earned that influence in fire." She turned away from the display. "Irene Vale does not seek power," she said. "That makes him more dangerous than those who do." A message from the dark after the battle, the vanguard received something unexpected. A transmission, not words, patterns, symbols. The null tide was trying to communicate. Irene studied the data. "They're not speaking," he said. "They're warning." "Warning of what?" an officer asked. Irene looked at the deep space map. "Of something bigger," he said, "something that even they fear." Silence filled the room. Irene straightened. "Prepare the fleet," he said. "The real test is coming." Far beyond the stars, ancient forces shifted again. And this time they did not underestimate humanity. After the destruction of the Null Tide fleet, the Vanguard unit did not return to celebration or rest. Instead, silence followed them, heavy and uneasy. Across Alliance space, messages spread faster than any ship could travel. Human command succeeds where fleets fail. Human tactics break ancient enemies. Humans cannot be controlled. Irene Vale felt the weight of those words every day. He stood in the command chamber, staring at a rotating map of space. New warning markers appeared constantly, signals fading, colonies evacuating, borders tightening. The null tide was not gone. It was gathering. "Another system lost," an intelligence officer said quietly. "No survivors." Irene nodded once. "Pattern?" he asked. "Yes," the officer replied. "They avoid Vanguard space." A murmur passed through the room. "They're afraid of us," someone whispered. Irene turned. "No," he said. "They're learning." The burden of trust. The Vanguard fleet had grown. Ships from many species requested transfer into Irene's command. Crews volunteered without being ordered. Some came out of respect. Others came out of fear. But with growth came problems. Alien admirals questioned Irene's authority. Councils sent observers. Orders came layered with politics and caution. Irene ignored most of it. He focused on preparation. Human engineers worked beside alien scientists, building tools that did not exist before. Weapons made from mining tech. Shields adapted from cargo containment fields. Communication arrays designed to work even if half the fleet went dark. Improvisation became doctrine. One night cycle, Irene walked through the lower decks. He stopped near a rest area where a group of young crew members sat quietly. They were afraid. He recognized the signs. "How long until the next fight?" one asked softly. Irene answered honestly. "Soon." Another crew member looked up. "Will we survive it?" Irene paused. "I don't know," he said, "but we'll face it together." That was enough. Fear did not vanish, but it steadied. The Queen's call to summons came without warning. Queen Althares requested a private audience. Irene arrived alone in the royal chamber, armor worn but clean. The room glowed with soft light, walls alive with shifting star patterns. The Queen stood near the center, hands clasped behind her back. "You are changing the galaxy," she said before he could speak. "Someone had to," Irene replied. She turned to face him. "That change has consequences." "I know." She waved her hand and images appeared, alien councils in heated debate, military leaders arguing, treaties marked with warnings. "They fear humans more than the enemy now," she said. Irene's expression hardened. "Then they learned the wrong lesson." "They learned the true one," the Queen replied. "Power is not always loud, sometimes it is refusal." She stepped closer. "Do you know why the law of Bloodguard exists?" she asked. "To bind loyalty," Irene answered. "To control outcomes," she corrected. "The law was created because long ago one warrior saved a royal line and later reshaped an empire." Irene met her gaze. "You're saying I'm a risk?" "Yes," she said, "and so is humanity." Silence stretched. Finally, Irene spoke. "You used that law to pull me here," he said. "Not just to fight an enemy." The Queen did not deny it. "You wanted to place a human at the center of power," he continued, "to force the galaxy to accept us." Her voice softened. "I wanted to protect my people," she said, "all of them." "And what about mine?" Irene asked. The question hung between them. The truth revealed. The Queen turned away. "There is something you must see," she said. A new projection appeared. It showed ancient records, old wars, lost civilizations, broken stars. "The null tide is not the first," she said. "They are a reaction." Irene frowned. "Reaction to what?" "To dominance," she answered. "Every time one force grows too strong, something rises to erase it." She faced him again. The galaxy survives by balance. Humans disrupt balance. Iren's voice was low. Because we refuse to accept limits. Yes, she said, and because you endure what others cannot. Iren clenched his fists. You brought me here knowing this, he said, knowing humans would become the focus. Yes, knowing we would be targeted. Yes, he stepped closer. You used us as a shield. The Queen did not move. I used you as a chance, she said. If the galaxy must change, better it change around humans than be erased entirely. Anger flashed through Iren, but beneath it was understanding. You could have asked, he said. And risked refusal? She asked. Iren looked away. She had been right. The cost of leadership. Iren returned to the Vanguard fleet with heavy thoughts. The next battle came sooner than expected. A massive null-tide force emerged near a civilian cluster, too large to fight directly. Evacuation was impossible. Iren studied the data. If we engage fully, an officer said, we lose half the fleet. If we don't, another said, millions die. Iren closed his eyes. Command meant choosing who paid the price. We engage, he said. The battle was brutal. Human ships drew enemy fire deliberately, using themselves as moving shields. Crews worked past exhaustion. Engineers sealed hull breaches with their own hands. Ships were lost. Lives were lost. But the civilians escaped. When the battle ended, the Vanguard drifted among wreckage and silence. Iren stood on the command deck, shoulders heavy. A human officer approached him. Sir, we followed your orders, but people are asking. About what? Iren asked. How long we can keep doing this? Iren looked at the stars. As long as it takes, he said, but not alone. Defiance. Iren requested another audience with the Queen. This time he did not wait for permission to speak. You said the galaxy needs humans, he said, but not controlled humans. The Queen nodded slowly. You intend to refuse the law. I intend to redefine it, Iren replied. He straightened. Humans will fight, he said. We will stand in the dark, but not as tools. The Queen studied him carefully. And if the councils oppose this? Then they'll learn, Iren said, that humans don't fight for chains. Silence followed. Then slowly the Queen smiled. I chose correctly, she said. A new path across Alliance space. Iren broadcast a message, not a threat, not a demand, a promise. Humanity stands with the galaxy, his voice echoed. Not above it, not beneath it. We fight so others may live, but we decide how. The message spread, hope followed, so did fear. Far beyond the stars, something vast shifted again, older than the null tide, quieter, watching. The final test was coming, and humanity would face it on its own terms. Across Alliance space, fleets stood ready but uncertain. Borders were quiet. Stars burned calmly, as if unaware that something vast was moving beneath their light. Iren Vale stood on the command deck of the Vanguard flagship, hands resting on the railing, eyes fixed on the deep space display. The warning signals were no longer scattered. They were aligned. Whatever had been pushing the null tide forward was finally revealing itself. It's not a fleet, an intelligence officer said quietly. It's a structure. The display shifted, showing something enormous, an area of space where light bent strangely, where sensors failed and time readings stuttered. A convergence, Iren said. A control point. The officer nodded. If it activates fully, she said, every aggressive force in this sector will be pulled toward it, including the null tide. And everything in between, Iren added, including inhabited worlds, the final choice. Queen Althares appeared on the main screen moments later. She looked tired but steady. The councils want to retreat, she said. They want to seal borders and let the outer systems fall. Iren did not hide his reaction. That will not stop it, he said. It will only feed it. I know, the Queen replied. That is why I am speaking to you, not them. She straightened. By law, by tradition, and by fear I could command you, she said, but I will not. The room grew silent. This decision will define the future, she continued. Not of crowns. Of people. Iren turned to face the screen. We will go to the convergence, he said, not to destroy it. The Queen raised an eyebrow. Then why? To show it something new, Iren replied. The human answer, the Vanguard fleet moved first, not as a spear, as a signal. Human ships took point, but they did not advance aggressively. They broadcast open channels, shared data freely, and allowed Alliance vessels to move independently rather than in strict formation. This confused everyone, even the enemy. As the fleet approached the convergence, null tide forces appeared more than ever before. They did not attack. They watched. Iren studied their movement. They're waiting, he said. They expect domination, control, force. He opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, he said calmly, prepare to disengage weapons. Protests erupted instantly. This is suicide. They will overwhelm us. Iren did not raise his voice. They already expect us to fight, he said. We are not here to meet expectations. Against every doctrine, the vanguard powered down its weapons. The null tide surged forward, then stopped. They hesitated. For the first time, the enemy did not understand the pattern. Into the dark, Iren ordered a single ship forward, an old human cruiser, scarred. Repaired too many times to count. Unarmed, it drifted toward the convergence. Energy rippled around it. The structure reacted, not with attack, but with response. The space around the cruiser changed, opening like a slow breath. Data flooded in. The intelligence officers stared. It's communicating, one whispered. Iren watched the streams of symbols and energy flows. It isn't alive the way we are, he said. It's a system built to correct imbalance. The Queen's voice came through a private channel. And humans are imbalance, she said. No, Iren replied. We are adaptation. He gave the next order. All ships, he said, broadcast life records. Confusion followed. Memories, he clarified. Art, loss, survival, everything. Human ships began transmitting stories, music created in shelters, voices of families separated by war, records of rebuilding after collapse. Alien ships followed, then more. The convergence reacted violently at first, energy spikes, unstable readings. Then it slowed. The null-tide ships froze in place, their movement patterns softened. They're stopping, an officer said, all of them. The breaking pattern, the convergence pulsed once, then again. A new signal spread outward, not destruction, release. The null-tide ships began to fall apart, not exploding, but dissolving, their energy structures unraveling peacefully. They were no longer needed. The correction had changed. Across Alliance space, hostile signals faded, long-standing conflicts stalled, weapons powered down. The galaxy was not forced into balance. It was shown another way. Iren exhaled slowly. After the storm, days later, the vanguard returned, not as heroes, as witnesses. Councils met, arguments continued. Fear did not vanish, but something had shifted. Humans were no longer a question, they were a fact. Iren stood once more before Queen Althares. This time no law was spoken. You could have taken power, she said. I never wanted it, Iren replied. You broke the purpose of the law of Bloodguard, she said. Iren smiled faintly. No, he said, I fulfilled it. She considered this, then nodded. The crown cannot hold what refuses to be owned, she said. The choice of a soldier, Iren was offered many things, a permanent command, a seat on the High Council, a symbol of unity. He refused them all. He returned to human space quietly, back to frontier worlds, to rebuilding, to teaching others how to survive when systems failed. The galaxy remembered him differently now, not as a weapon, not as a tool, but as a reminder. Epilogue. Years later, young officers of many species studied the war. They learned tactics, history, strategy, but one lesson was taught above all others. Humans did not win because they were strongest. They did not win because they ruled. They won because when faced with control, they chose cooperation. When faced with fear, they chose endurance. When faced with power, they chose restraint. And the galaxy endured because of it. Far beyond the stars, where ancient systems once corrected imbalance, there was only silence now. Not emptiness, peace.